Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the third online seminar in 2021, which is held by the Macau Trade and Investment Promotion Institute and facilitated by GainEdge. The topic of today is how the association meeting market emerged from the post-conflict era. I hope today's sharing will bring a new vision to all of us. As is generally known, the global mines industry is seen as a promising growth sector, providing an opportunities to showcase and to interact. Being an industry which focuses on experience and communication, in-person interaction is a norm. Thus, it has experienced a tough time during the pandemic, but thankfully, technology gave us reasons for collaborators of industry to be helpful with tons of learnings and opportunities. Going forward, we are facing something new. The experience on-site and online for attendance will likely be very dissimilar to a pre-pandemic setting. Therefore, the way how association meeting sectors selects destination and suppliers will be different accordingly. In respect to the association meeting sector, we need to learn how it responds and emerges from the post-conflict era. As such, it is our honor to have the elites and experts from the association community here with us today. Ms. Alicia Young, the Managing Director of IME Consulting, Ms. Belinda Morris, the Managing Director of Strategic Membership Solutions, and Mr. Otavio Bobby Peralta, the founder and CEO of Philippines Council of Associations and Association Executives. Lastly, yet importantly, I would like to express my greatest gratitude to Mr. Mike William of GainEdge for moderating the seminar again. I wish you all a most rewarding and enjoyable time.
Good morning and good afternoon to all our friends in Macau, and thank you for joining us today for the topic of on the association meetings market and how it is emerging from the post-COVID era. I'd like to thank Benson Lau, the president of IPM, for the introduction, and for IPM for facilitating this program for us today. As I said, the topic's all about the association marketplace and where it's heading and where it's going, and how does the industry respond to the changes taking place with the association sector. So we're going to look at how the association market has been affected by COVID, how they're adapting to it, and how they're evolving from COVID as we start seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. We're also going to start looking at what changes they are making to their events, whether they're temporary or permanent, and how destinations and suppliers should be approaching the association sector. And with me today, I've got three experts on the subject of association meetings and associations generally from across the Asia Pacific region. First of all, I introduce you to Alicia Yao, Managing Director of IME Consulting from Beijing, China, a long and dear friend of GainEdge, over 20 years experience working for CTIS, the MICE division, looking after both association corporate meetings, a previous board director of SITE, a vice chairman of the China Business Events Industry Committee, a vice chairman of the China Congress of Association and Chamber of Commerce, a major initiator and contributor to the Association Journal in China, the APCO China Education Manager, the Regional Vice President of PCMA Asia Pacific, and Deputy General Secretary of the China MICE Committee, China Association of Travel Services, and an active member of ICA. Very substantial credentials and certainly an expert on the China market. Also with me from down under in Australia and coming from us from Queensland is Belinda Moore, also very well known in the association sector. Belinda is the owner and Managing Director of Strategic Membership Solutions. She's a specialist in association consulting in the areas of strategy, sponsorship, and membership. Belinda is also a speaker, an author, and a researcher specialising in association market for over 25 years. Last year, Belinda completed a major research study, and one of the few major research studies in this region, particularly in the Australian New Zealand market, looking at the effects of COVID on the association sector. The paper came out in June last year, called Lessons for Associations from the COVID-19 Crisis. So there's a lot to learn from that. And Belinda's also undertaking a revamp of that study to look at what the situation is now. Belinda's also a former board member of Diabetes Australia and CEO and board member of the Australian Society of Association Executives. And last, and certainly not least, is our dear friend from the Philippines, Octavio Bobby Parato, founder and CEO of the Philippine Council of Associations and Association Executives. He's known as the Association Man, and he certainly lives up to that reputation. He's the president of the Asia Pacific Federation of Association Organisations. He's a fellow of the Institute of Corporate Directors and on the advisory council member of the American Society of Association Executives. Bobby's also the Secretary General of the Association of Development Financing Institutions in Asia and the Pacific. So again, another great expert on this, the topic of association. So welcome to our panelists. And I'd like to start off with a few questions to start investigating this topic a bit further. So let's start off by just looking at what's been the overall impact of the pandemic on the not-for-profit association sector in the Asia-Pacific region and also in China. So can kick that off and ask maybe Bobby to respond to that question.
Thank you very much, Mike. Well, certainly the pandemic has caused difficulties for associations across the world. But here in the Philippines specifically, and I assume that's the same situation in other countries in Asia Pacific, the adverse impact of COVID maybe on these following items. First is at least half of the associations have suffered membership decline in numbers. About 80% of associations reported cancellation or postponement of their face-to-face events. And these two main issues saw a decrease in association revenues, as you can imagine. So loss of membership dues, as well as loss on conference registration fees and sponsorship opportunities. Sadly, there are about 1 out of 10 associations that laid off their staff. But on the other hand, membership engagement increased by 70%. That means because of online events, webinars, conferences. So in general, what the associations did really is to embark on what I refer to as the 4 Ps, letter P. So first is to really pivot to digital. And you can see that the increase in engagement is because of adoption of associations to technology. The second P is really on people reskilling and upskilling, because you have to adapt to the new requirements for talent of the staff. The third P is on partnership, and many associations have collaborated with each other to be able to help each other and to gain economies of scale. And finally, planning on the short term. So I think overall, there are challenges, yes, but there are also adaptability and flexibility of associations in trying to be resilient during these pandemic times.
Thank you, Bobby. Belinda, I know I was reading your survey that you did last year. Now it is 12 months old, and I know you're in the process of doing a new survey, but what was one of the interesting outcomes of your survey last year is you were saying that despite the fact there was short-term pain, I think 52% of the respondents said the crisis had a positive impact as it forced them to be more innovative in their approach to things. And likewise, similar to what Bobby has just said, he said membership engagement increased for 78% of the respondents. So it's a very similar figure to what Bobby just referred to. So can I get your comments on what the impact is? And I don't know whether you can give an update on that, where they are now. I know you're doing that research at the moment, but can you give us a bit of a feel what's going on?
Certainly. When COVID first hit, associations around the world needed to adapt quickly. Now, how effectively they were able to adapt really depended on a number of factors. For example, here in Australia, there was significant government support, which has meant that now associations are emerging very strongly because in addition to the increased membership engagement, the government support gave the associations the leeway they needed to adapt effectively. So the results that we got from last year, I think a greater percentage would now report similar, that the initial impact of the crisis was stressful. It was hard, people had to adapt, they had to be nimble, but it forced associations to undertake necessary change that they've been resisting for many years prior. Before COVID hit, a lot of associations were using very traditional models of member engagement. There was a reluctance to adopt technologies that would move them into more contemporary frameworks. And associations simply weren't doing what they needed to do. When COVID hit, there were associations that brought in within a month or two things I thought they were 10 years away from getting in. So what we're seeing now is really interesting because associations are coming out of the crisis far better positioned than they were going in to really deliver a positive impact for members. And I think the crisis, while it has been awful for so many people, the silver lining is I think we'll see a renaissance in the sector, and for the meeting sector, it's going to be a wonderful time coming forward. I want to give people that glimmer of hope. It's been dire, but they are champing at the bit to get back to face-to-face events. And at least in Australia, they've got the resources to do so.
There certainly seems like there's a lot of pent-up demand to get back to face-to-face. I think that's becoming clearly evident. People are kind of zoomed out, I think. That would be a...
Well, there's been a real evolution. When the crisis first hit, everybody replicated their offline event into the online format. And that was good as a stopgap, but it doesn't really work as a permanent solution. And we've been doing a lot of work directly with associations to understand the evolution of their event planning processes. And what we've found is that a number are coming to the conclusion that online events are a great forum for information distribution. But if you want to create an experience that engages members, it's the face-to-face events. And so online events aren't replacing face-to-face, they're simply another addition to a rich and full calendar of events. And they will be integrating hybrids coming forward, but face-to-face is going to be back, but it's going to be different.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Well, let's go over to Alicia now. What's been the situation in China? What has the impact of COVID been on the association sector in China? It was a booming marketplace prior to COVID, but has the impact been significant?
Yes, the overall impact of the COVID for the association is in fact very strong in all directions. Bobby said, it really affects all the management, the different way of association management, such as recruiting and maintaining members, and leadership management, because they used to do everything traditional. And before COVID, we also promote the digital management, and but most of the associations still stick to their traditional way. But the COVID make them really move so quickly, because home office, mobile office, and they have to do a lot of online connection, and they use Tencent meeting. They even for publish magazines, they turn into e-magazine, and also membership networking, maintaining by WeChat, a lot of things that is done online. And also before the COVID, we have the association management system platform with all the modern technique and digital management. Now is commonly used and really so welcome. And another thing is that because COVID affect the whole industry, and in China there are so many associations in the same industry, and each one is focused on different elements of the industry chain. But now there is a trend that all the associations set up alliance. They try to jointly join together hand by hand to work together, and also this to host their meetings or exhibitions, give more value to the training based on the whole industry recovery. So that's what's happening in China.
I think just to all the panel, would you agree with the statement that the association's adapting well to the challenges? Are they keeping up with the rapid change in technology and delivering that to their membership and to their constituents?
They're adapting well, or this is the only way they have to do, and they have to be quick. So in fact, when China first started at the end of, the beginning of year 2020, immediately all associations felt the traditional way of managing is totally, cannot up to the situation. So they ask questions, and we immediately, under the CCPIT, set up a virtual program, exchange ideas, and discuss what we can do with all the association executives. And we also learn from the other countries, their association management. I myself also attend, Belinda's seminars and training, and also Bobby, PCAAE, seminar. So we try to learn from each other and also help with the association. And they, in this way, they learn from each other and adapt the new way of managing. So this is what China is doing, and also they quickly accept it and also meet the needs. This is the needs of the industry, meeting association management industry, and also meets the needs for the members as well.
Okay, well, let's take a look at different types of associations that are doing better than others, and what industry sectors are doing better than others. Are there any dinosaurs out there? Is there any associations that are flagging behind or falling off the radar? And what kind of associations are doing really well? I'll start with Bobby and then go on to Belinda, because I know both of you have mentioned this in the previous discussions we've had. Bobby?
There are associations that are fairly doing well. As you know, there are two main types of associations. You have the trade associations, or members are businesses, organizations, and you have the professional societies, whose members are in different disciplines of the profession, and they are individuals. So in our case here in the Philippines, the trade associations, I think, are fairly doing well than the counterpart for professional societies, because for one, in a business setting or in an organizational setting, then you have as many resources. Unlike as an individual, if you, for example, lose your job, or you're on furlough, then engagement or maybe even payment of dues will be you'll face difficulty. So yes, it's not across the board. For example, in our case, the Philippine Retailers Association, the Management Association of the Philippines, they're doing well because they have big resources and their members are really organization. But there are small associations like the Secretaries Association of the Philippines and many other smaller associations are really sort of struggling, and maybe have to at least temporarily close their doors for the time being.
So you're saying it's mainly the trade associations that are doing well. It's the associations based on individual membership that are struggling a little bit more than those trade associations.
In a way, because like chambers of commerce or trade associations, they're businesses, and although they are also suffering a bit, but as I said, they are better equipped and more resources than the professional societies.
Belinda, would you concur with that? What's your perspective from the research that you've done?
It does vary very much between country to country. I mean, undoubtedly, there are certain industries that are doing better than others. Healthcare and wellness, technology, in fact, anywhere where technology is applied, transport and logistics, safety, crisis management, social justice, these industries are all doing well. But within those industries, and any industries, there are characteristics that we often see in successful associations, regardless of their type. The common ones that we found from the research were high-performing associations through COVID had a skilled leadership team with a shared vision of the future, i.e. we didn't see too much political manoeuvring. They had skilled staff and volunteers who had the ability to execute the strategy. But probably the biggest factor, and in particularly if you're looking for good associations to approach, was a nimble organisational culture which could adapt and assimilate information and create innovations that would enable them to be successful. So we've certainly seen in some industries associations who I thought should have performed better, but they lost because of internal reasons where they couldn't capitalise on the opportunity that COVID represented. And it is challenging because you really need to look at your associations that you're approaching carefully to see if they're in a position to effectively execute the kind of event that they want to execute. But certainly in those industries, we're seeing some wonderful innovations coming through, and I'm aware of a large number of brand new events that have never run before that are planned for as soon as COVID allows. So exciting times ahead there.
Yeah, look, I'd like to get on to that topic of events shortly. So I'd like to ask some more questions on that. But before we go there, I just wanted to also get a sense for what is happening with associations. Are they finding more competition amongst themselves for members? Are there more mergers and acquisitions taking place in that sector? Are there associations that haven't kept up with the times that are becoming defunct? I'll start off again with you, Belinda, but love to get comments from Alicia and Bobby as well.
So we're facing increasing competition for associations, and not just from other associations. Often the competition is from for-profit entities that are coming in to compete not head-to-head, but with elements of the association offering. So they'll compete with the products, services, publications, events, even online communities. Now, for the association sector, this has represented a huge threat. Associations essentially had monopolies for hundreds of years. And suddenly we're seeing a death by 1,000 cuts where many organisations will erode the value proposition. And then they wake up one day and go, oh, gosh, where's it all gone? Now, one of the things that associations have realised very strongly during this time is that while other people will compete with their products and their services and their events and their publications, one of the things that's very difficult to compete against is a strong and engaged community of people. Now, this is the key competitive advantage for associations. But one of the things, if you want to execute or capitalise on this competitive advantage effectively, is a robust events program and robust engagement practices. So we're seeing a lot more associations trying to leverage this, and it wasn't something we saw a lot pre-COVID, but the increased engagement, and interesting along with that engagement, associations are reporting a higher focus on impact. So it's less about doing things because we've always done them, and more about what can we do now for those we serve to make the biggest possible impact and build our community to strengthen our overall position. So it's a really significant shift, and the associations who are capitalising on that very proactively are emerging very strong.
You mentioned earlier about private sector operators getting into this space. There was a bit of a trend towards that pre-COVID as well, I understand. Yeah. But can you give us an example of where that's happening? Is it any sector, or is it any?
You know what? We're seeing it across the board at every level. There's organisations who are coming through who are finding an industry where they think there's a niche and running a conference. It's people who are walking in and starting a new magazine because a magazine doesn't exist for a particular industry or profession. We're seeing it across the board at every level. And it's a shame because in some industries, and I don't want to name names.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
But what we're seeing is it's fragmenting the available market. But on the other hand, something else we're seeing is, for example, events. Different events have a different culture. Some of them are very serious and conservative and formal and traditional, and they're suited to a particular demographic. Whereas other events are more fun and innovative and creative. And they tend to, even though it might be the same industry or profession, they can attract a different delegate mix. So I think associations are more aware of this now and actively selecting who it is that they want to engage with and targeting it more effectively.
Yeah, great, thanks. Alicia, what's happening in China? Has there been any sort of impact on associations merging or collaborating, or some of them going out of business or becoming defunct? Are you seeing any signs of that in China?
Yes, there are more collaboration and new alliance set up with more than 10 or associations who work in a similar industry or supporting industry of the main industry association. For example, one thing is that the very active association is the trading, because the trading in China is very active. Another is based on the situation in China is city construction. So China Construction Industry Association also very active, and they are working closely with national, the new venue, the Tianjin National Exhibition and Convention Center, and jointly with the China Academy of Building Research, as well as over 10 associations who also work in the construction or city, smart city management, or anything with the city construction, building construction, and anything with the green concept. All these associations working as a line to give their trainings, host exhibitions and meetings. So there are more think tanks coming into this field, and there are more innovation come into, and collaboration or contracts signed, with the new ideas and the new task force, and also new projects. So this is one example, but also for the fishery industry, because COVID started mainly with the fish market. So fishing industry also suffered a lot, but also with the cool chain association, everything, they jointly set up alliance to really make sure the industry recover, and also the medical. Because especially for Chinese herbal medicine, we have different kind of associations, and now they all join together and having seminars together. They used to be competitors, but now they cooperate or sponsors to each other. And another is about the food. The food, once we had a meeting, a kind of a dialogue from the China Association of Seed, the seed all the way to the table, hotel management, association, hotel association. So including food, fruits, meat, mushroom association. We have so many associations, almost 20 associations can work as a line in the same industry and support each other. So this is what's happening in China.
Okay, thank you, Alicia. I'd like to move on to a different topic now. We've talked today a bit about how the association sector seems to be adapting quite well to the hybrid environment. But one of the big challenges for associations at the moment is, how do we actually monetize that? How do we actually, obviously there's a potential drop in revenue, and revenue is obviously an important part of keeping associations afloat. So how are they adapting and finding alternative ways to monetize using virtual platforms? And there must be some significant challenges there with sponsorship and getting exhibitors and that type of thing. I'll start with Bobby, if you've got a few comments on that, and open up to the other panelists to talk about. Bobby?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of talk about hybrid, but hybrid events are really events that are two-in-one. So it's been a challenge, not only in terms of structuring it, because the expectation of the virtual audience and the in-person audience would be different. That's one. Second is the cost consideration as well. So many associations here, at least in the Philippines, are really still struggling to go into hybrid. Although the bigger associations are trying that, but in terms of monetization, really it's a challenge. So what is happening is many of the webinars or events are really online, and so what they're doing is many of them are offering for free. Some of them are just offering it for a token fee. But what's happening is that they are should I say that there are upselling or cross-selling. So meaning that if you have a free webinar, you can offer maybe other products and services like a book or a publication or a survey or a report. And so that is where some potential monetization will come. But indeed, there are really challenges in terms of monetizing. Of course, the sponsors are there, and if you're really targeting the sponsors that you have mentioned and industries that are really going up, like technologies, medical supply, logistic, e-commerce, and so on, then they're coming in. In fact, in our case, in TCAE, they're now slowly coming in, and that's good news for us that the technology companies are seeing the benefit of talking to one association like us, that our members are associations. So there are challenges, but there are also opportunities in terms of monetizing events.
Yeah. I'll pass over to Belinda, because I know you've done a little bit of research into this as well.
Yes, and there's a couple of parts to this question. First of all, a hybrid event is a bit of a misnomer. From what we're seeing, when people are approaching a hybrid event, those that are most successful, it's essentially two events running at the same time, which leverage off each other. Now, hybrid events have caused associations to completely, in some cases, rethink their entire business models. You can't take events income in isolation from the rest of the organization. So there's two elements to this. As a part of when online events have come in, associations are saying, how does this fit? So we're seeing some fundamental changes to the membership frameworks and the business models that fund these. But one of the biggest challenges that we've seen, particularly with the online and the online version of a hybrid event, is sponsors have had less than positive results a lot of the time. What we've found is there is still a lot of money out there. There are still sponsors there, but it's changed. They are looking for a return on their investment. They're looking for quantifiable regular metrics. They're not looking for a one-shot event. We're seeing a lot of associations who are now shifting from these one-off sponsorship for different events to these annualized partnership models with very strong key performance indicators set into the arrangements that are enabling associations to set up funnels. Because like Bobby was saying, a lot of associations members now are conditioned to the concept of online being free. And there's so much competition for content out there. So associations are having to use a lot of their online content as a loss leader or something they can do to attract people in and engage them to the point where they're willing to pay for high levels of access. So this is something that's not just simply what do I do with this event now? Now we're saying, well, we're shifting more from these traditional membership models where you're a non-member, you get nothing, you're a member, you get access to these events, to more contemporary models where they say, well, somebody can join our community and start engaging with our online events and get the taster before shifting into upgraded paid membership levels with other levels of access and other events attached. So it's been really interesting how this one seemingly, I know it's a big thing, but this one element, i.e. the online events, the hybridization of events, is causing this huge rethink and this domino effect.
Well, we were just asking before about, for most associations, the revenue generated from a conference is usually a major revenue generator. And with the move towards hybrid or virtual conferencing, it's been a bit more challenging to generate that sort of revenue. So what do the associations do to diversify their income streams or revenue streams?
Yeah, you're correct that registrations fees from events are the biggest earners for association. But what's happening also is that members are coming together, and so what's happening is the membership dues is increasing, and because I think, as I mentioned, the associations have been where the members are there and really quickly been helping members. So the support of members are there. Other sources of revenue would be, as I said, converting those content, because even though you have competition from other providers, consulting companies, etc., their content is really more towards general management. But associations have the distinct and unique advantage in really churning out very association management focused content. And so what's happening is, they continue the webinars, they convert that into recording, and they sell it on-demand video. So that's also one source of revenue. And also like coaching and mentoring, advisory services, and in fact, consulting also helps in augmenting the revenue sources of associations.
Linda, anything to add?
Yeah, we've noticed with associations who are seeking to increase revenue, there's two things they need to consider. One, they've got to have something to sell. Often associations lack the range of things that they want to sell. And two, robust business development processes. It has been consistently shown through many research projects that the number one reason that people who are within the sphere of the association who aren't members haven't joined is that nobody asked them. So what we're seeing now is associations shifting into marketing automation to develop consistent sales processes that enable them to leverage off the existing products that they have. We've seen people start to look to things like third-party programs to supplement their income, which enable them to leverage a greater income off their existing membership. Things like insurance programs, which have been around forever, but a fresh look at those has been quite profitable for a number of associations who've gone back to look and see how they can update and generate greater revenue from it while still benefiting their members. But we do a lot of work in revenue diversification. And one of the success factors that we've seen is those associations who not just get the product suite and the business development processes in place, but focus on getting each new source up and running effectively before trying to put another one in place. The focus on executing each stream well and properly checking it out. And in fact, we've found one of the limiting factors for associations over this time have been the ones that have been stuck. They take a year to decide whether or not they're even going to try something. The associations who are doing very well on revenue diversification have they test the market, they get proof of concept. So they'll try something and discard quickly. Try something else, discard quickly. Try something else, and if it starts to work, dig in, make it work, then try something new. And that entrepreneurial approach to revenue diversification has proven to be very successful for a large number of associations who are now shifting into what we call high performers.
One of the things with relation to events is that one of the benefits of hybrid events is that you can actually now reach a much greater audience, which we're seeing evidence of in the marketplace. Is that something that can be monetized for associations, and is it happening?
It can be monetized in a lot of ways. That's one of the most exciting things about hybrid events, because we've noticed even from the organizations that we're working with, it can be used as a funnel where somebody comes to the hybrid event. You've got the opportunity to make a smaller amount of income. There's some opportunity through partnerships and sponsorships to target people and leverage income that way. But somebody who's attended the online version of a hybrid event and has a good experience has a greater propensity to then attend the face-to-face event. So as a prospecting tool, it can be quite powerful. So hybrid events executed well are a really good medium to long-term opportunity for generating additional delegates too.
Great. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. And this narrows down more a greater focus on events and the events that associations run. But what kind of changes are taking place within the association sector in how they approach events, and how they also start looking at selecting destinations and products and supplies in different destinations. So I'll start with you, Bobby. Is there a different approach that associations are taking to when they're looking at the next destination for their conferences?
Yeah, I mean, of course, safety and health issues are the one that is primordial in the association's mind when they look at the destination. And what's happening really is, in our context, at least here in the Philippines, is our events are really mostly online. And as I mentioned, although there are attempts to go hybrid, they found out that it's really very difficult, and it should be only those big associations that can afford that. As you know, in the Philippines, not many are really large associations. So while they are handicapped in terms of resources, the benefit is, of course, they are nimble and agile, as Melinda mentioned, and that's the way that they can go into at least a webinar, online mentoring, online advisory services. So in terms of the Philippines, we're still really very difficult in doing hybrid events.
Okay, Belinda.
So when we come back to face-to-face, I think there's going to be three big differences in the way that destinations need to approach associations. First is competition. There's so much competition emerging now that delegates have a wide range of choice on what events to go to. They don't just look to their local area, they look internationally. Associations are looking for destinations that can give them a solution. And I can tell you from bitter experience, when I go on a famil, as a senior decision maker, I choose the destination. My events manager chooses the detail. I don't want to see every single hotel. I want to see what is the solution that you can offer me that's going to set my event apart from my competitor's event who's targeting the same delegates. So destinations who can sell that solution to the associations are certainly the ones that are going to appeal more. And that leads me to the second thing. It's no longer about the room size. It's about the experience that you can generate for these association conference delegates. Because nowadays, if I want information, I'll look online. If I want an experience, I'm going to attend a face-to-face event. Now, this means that destinations who can proactively help associations to envision what their event could be. It means providing associations with an up-to-date list of local facilitators, entertainers, babysitting services, unique venues, not just sticking with the convention center. Convention centers are awesome, don't get me wrong, I need them for my exhibition. But I want to give my delegates a money can't buy experience. And when I'm thinking about destinations, that's what I'm looking for, is what sets you apart and makes you really unique and it lets me deliver something special. And the third element that I think is quite different, and just on the second one, photos. I want to see photos of other people's events. But the third one is also the priorities for association event planners have shifted somewhat. So I'd say the top 5 priorities are, other than the experience and that solution, is the cost or profitability. You may not be able to give me money, although financial incentives are powerful, but can you save me money? Flexible contract terms. People are very concerned about the impact of COVID on travel. And I know that myself, I've made decisions based on who's going to give me more flexible terms. Related to that, COVID, number 3, it's got to be COVID safe outdoor venues where I can disperse my delegates and still have a great experience are certainly appealing. Attendee travel time, particularly at the amount of legs traveled, because with COVID, we're trying to minimize the risk of certain countries closing their borders. So attendee travel time is a big one. And the last one is the technology infrastructure, because people need the ability, if they want, if not to execute a fully hybrid event, to have some elements. So that infrastructure is really important. And this is part of the research that we've done. I mean, these aren't just guesses. This is stuff that we found through research in 426 medium to large associations.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've heard this a few times that destinations sell their infrastructure and their products and services, but they don't get into the experiential side of it. And they often don't ask the question about how can we help you achieve your goals and objectives, the solutions. Bobby, have you experienced this? If you're looking at a venue or a destination within the Philippines, is the approach, is there something that the destinations need to rethink about how they're going to get your business or host an event in the Philippines or anywhere else in the Asia Pacific region?
Well, in the context of the Philippines, actually we have the venues are really ready. The only thing is the association seems to be at least in a sense not ready because they're more comfortable really doing their events virtually. But of course, when you talk about exhibition, for example, then that's a different story because nothing really replaces face-to-face exhibition. So in our context, for those or content that delivery, I think online people have been already comfortable with online, right? But for networking and for exhibition, there must be some element of hybrid in there because really B2B and B2C transactions is very difficult in an online environment. So I think that's the demarcation between content for online and then maybe networking and exhibition should be at least a hybrid or in person.
So Alicia, what's the current interest of Chinese associations to meet offshore in the short to medium term? And I'm talking about between 2021, 22, and then maybe what we would call post-COVID, which would be sort of 2023 onwards. What's the interest in meeting offshore?
Meeting offshore is still, very strong. For association, especially based on the big push from the, Fortune Global 500 top enterprises. We just had the Fortune Global 500 top enterprises year 2021 list announced. There are 143 Chinese companies on the list. And most of those companies have branch companies, regional offices or factories in over 10, each one, covered over 10 countries or cities in all different parts of the world. So they used to have an annual meeting in Beijing, but due to the situation and also travel, problem, they can only have meetings online. For about 1 or 2 years already. But now, when the situation is allowed, they really eager to host their meetings in destination where they have offices or factories or regional offices outside China, which make it easy for their participants because most of their executives of those countries are not Chinese. They can easy to travel to those cities.
When you talk about Macau, is Macau considered offshore or is it considered just part of China?
It's part of China, but the policy, especially after COVID, we gave Macau very strong, no isolation coming in and out. So this is, part of China, but because of their special position and it has a strong link with the international world, I think Macau should really fully use the advantages to be a good link between the Chinese associations and international associations. Then they can have more international meetings landed in Macau. So again, professional meeting ambassador is needed in this for the professional development.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Alicia. Let's look at 2025 and assume everything is normal. What's the conference of 2025 going to look like? I'll start with you, Belinda, and back to you, Bobby. So, Belinda, what's 2025 conference going to look like?
The 2025 conference, it's going to have a lot of experience. It's going to be new ways of engaging. You're going to see hot air balloons, people sitting on a riverbed, hiring out Disneyland for your social, sessions at the pool bar, things where you can tribalize your event delegates beyond the traditional sitting in front of a screen or a speaker in a room. One of the strong trends that we've noted is somebody who's new to their career, they're very conditioned to a classroom environment, a speaker talking up the front. The further somebody gets into their career, the more, when they go to an event, you'll hear them say, if I just pick up one or two ideas, it'll be worth it. The more senior somebody is, the more value they derive from their conversations with others. And I think a lot more associations have understood this now, and they understand that when they're running one event, they're not running one event, even if it's just face-to-face. They're running several events, whether they're targeting new people to the industry, experienced practitioners. And so I think these big events will fragment at the event to enable people to easily find their tribe. And we'll see a continuation of these trends that already existed pre-COVID, but I think they're going to go a lot further. And I think we're going to see a lot of technology. And I'm quite excited because I've seen some of the augmentation and the bringing in the artificial intelligence and machine thinking to help match people more quickly and easily at events. Because what we'll be looking at is these events will be geared to enable delegates to generate a really tangible impact from their attendance. Because, nowadays time is more valuable than money. And when someone leaves their house to go to a big event, particularly one overseas, that's a significant investment of time and they're expecting a return. Event organizers are getting much, much better at understanding how do we actually deliver that to the individual.
I think one of the things you're kind of pointing out there is that destinations are going to really have to try harder to differentiate between the benefits of a live event versus a virtual event. And so the experience of the event and the destination is going to be more important than it was before. Would you agree with that statement?
Oh, absolutely. Because the associations are looking for that experience, and destinations who can showcase the experience and the solution, they're the ones that are going to get the business.
Bobby, I see you nodding your head there. I'm assuming you're in agreement with this. What's your idea of a conference post-COVID 2025? What's it going to look like?
Absolutely, 100% agree with Belinda. And I think if there's one job that would be in demand during the 2025, it will be the CX or the Chief Experience Officer. And really, the trend is really mix of technology, experience, and business. It's going to be an entirely different conference we're seeing, and I think that's a good advantage and good opportunity for everyone, especially for venues. So they have to really be equipped and be doing the changes right there and there. And really, it will be very exciting, as Belinda mentioned.
Alicia, do you think that association conferences and events will revert back to how they were pre-COVID? Will they be the same, or will they be different than the future of conferences?
The future conferences, like just now, we believe we talk about. Everyone think when the COVID can be over, but most people see that we have to be ready that COVID may stay with us for another 10 years. But within that 10 years, we cannot host any meeting, cannot stop incoming and outgoing, especially for business travel, because the economy recovery needs the business travel. The more economy recovery, the more business travel might need, and then may need. And also because of this, I think it won't be back the same as the COVID before, because hybrid is going to be the way. And a lot of associations find that a hybrid is even better than just face-to-face. Hybrid here in China is face-to-face with 500 people, even 1,000 people on the same venue, but at the same time with 5,000, even 10,000 people online to join. Or it's two or three different venues, each venue with 300 or 500 people, but linked online, broadcasting at the same time. Each three cities or three countries can meet each other online. So this is a kind of a hybrid, which is good for promotion, because anything online, we need to think is a media, is a TV. Design. We need a good producer. We have to change our traditional professional meeting, association meeting designer to be a producer. So this is the way I think we need to be ready. And also, there are so many like contract terms, and even before any meetings or events, we have to have COVID control officer. So this is a kind of a must, or COVID control insurance for all the participants. So a lot of things adding, into the contract, and we have to be ready. And that never we do not have it before COVID, but now we have to have a few more pages on the COVID control in the contract. So that's very important. And also with the SOP, we call it a standing operation procedure of COVID control for the venues, for the travelers. That's also very important because we want to travel, to come back as a normal, but while at the same time, we also need to control the COVID and stop any COVID spreading because of the travel. So this is what we need to do. But this needs a great collaboration between the countries, between the Tourism Bureau, Convention Bureau, government, or any aspects that may affect the results, and also control the COVID. So this is will be totally different. A lot of more work, and may also mean more cost.
Right. I'd just like to ask you for maybe give some advice to our friends in Macau. What kind of advice would you give them? Macau, like any other destination in the recovery phase, is going to be very hungry for business to try and attract conferences and events, particularly the association market, which is always a very good proportion of what convention bureaus focus on. What's your advice to them to take on board to try and approach the association sector in the coming years? What do they need to be aware of, and how do they need to accommodate the needs of the association sector? So I'll start with you, Bobby, and I'll pass over to Belinda and Alicia.
Okay, well, Macau has been very successful in the gaming industry. I remember Macau in the old days, a very quiet, very quiet, very conservative place, nice walk around. But now it became really with infrastructure and really excel in the gaming industry. But of course, I think that is not going to be sustainable, and they're looking for to diversify their sort of economy. And I think they're looking at MICE, or meetings, incentives, convention, and exhibition. And I was I think a couple of weeks ago I was invited by the IPIM, and it was a green finance summit. And I think what they're looking at is really to make, or at least aspire to make Macau as a hub for the green economy. And so you mentioned industries that are picking up, and I think green technologies, green finance, and all that would be good. So what I'm saying is, look at your niche, look at your unique value proposition, and I think there's an opportunity for Macau in that direction.
Thanks, Bobby. Belinda.
I'd say three things.
Mm-hmm.
Target exactly who you want and who's going to be making the decision to take the event to Macau. As I said before, it's often the CEO or someone will make the destination decision and someone else will do the operational. Get that person across, because it's number two is involve them in the experience. If you get these people to agree to come across, don't just do the same familiar that everybody does. Run an event. And if, for example, say you're targeting association CEOs, run an event for association CEOs. It might only be 20 people, but allow them to come and attend an event where they're solving their own problems so they can experience the destination and get excited about it so they want to share it. But it costs a lot of money to do that. I do understand, which is why there's number three. When you do that, leverage it. Take photos, share the content, make it a bit of a hybrid, let others see what they're missing. One of the things that is really wonderful about bringing people into the country is you're not just showcasing it to the people who you've brought along, but they're going to take it back, find a way to leverage off that, because targeted engagement with the specific associations you want. So for example, you might target a whole range of associations in the healthcare and wellness sector to come over for an event where they get to collaborate and meet, because associations love to talk to each other. And when the purpose of this event is to help them to engage to solve their problems, you're not seen as just a supplier. You become part of their solution. And that's really where we want to go. If Macau's going to do well into the future, it's you want to be the solution that everyone wants.
For Macau, in fact, our government really gave Macau a strong support during and after COVID, especially the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, because I know it quite well. Because of COVID, in order to make the MICE tourism, especially for business travel, international, both incoming and outgoing, I created, working together with China Insurance Industry Association, and create a new conference to push the China insurance industry to really create different kind of insurance for our MICE events, travelers, for both incoming and outgoing. And so when I have this, and it's strongly supported by the government, by the different province, especially the Hainan province, because it's famous for international travel island. And but when I invite the Ministry of Culture and Tourism to support my event, and the first thing they say, suggest me, they say, we prefer you put this conference in Macau. One thing is that, Macau is different than Hong Kong. The government gave a special policy that all the Chinese mainland travel to Macau in and out, they don't need any isolation. But Hong Kong, when we go to enter Hong Kong, we still have to have isolation days, and also the same when we come back. So this is offer very good convenience, for the mainland travelers to go to Macau. And because of this policy, in fact, this year, we have so many large meetings going to Macau, especially for direct sales, with several thousand people. The two main destinations for this year, for the large conference, corporate, and also association, is Macau and Hainan Island. But for this year, because in memory of the 100-year anniversary of the Communist Party, and in Hainan, they have so many, different products on this theme, on this topic, but Macau didn't have enough products on this theme, on this topic, so that to compare the two destinations, I think Hainan won more large events or meetings instead of Macau. So in this way, I would suggest Macau always follow the government trend, the situation trend, and really create some good products for the association meetings. And also another thing is that when I find out when I contact with Macau with the meetings, PCO, and but they didn't focus more on what I need for the collaboration of the association. What's the special person or professionals from Macau that can support me from the industry side, with the knowledge, with the content, with the topic, with the speakers, or even sponsorship from the industry. But they more talk about how we run it, how much money you spend, how many room nights you're going to have. So later, when I bring this topic, no one can really answer me. So I find out Macau needs to learn from Hong Kong, because Hong Kong already started their ambassador program. Macau, I don't think they have. So that means the ambassadors, those professional people from Macau, they are the think leaders or the professional leaders in the industry, so they can help Macau to attract more or design, working together with the International Association or Chinese Association to design a good meeting or content, or be a good speaker. So this is really what we need when we move the meetings to Macau, because Macau for hardware, meetings, hotel, everything is the best, I think, among all the destinations in China, and that's no problem. But content is the key, especially after COVID. We used to run the meetings for, we did not focus on the content, but focus more on the ceremony. But now totally changed, because we think the content is the key. The content really can help the members' development. That can also make the association survive, and also make the association, really, develop. So this is now after COVID, association focus more on the benefit of the members. So I really strongly suggest that Macau needs ambassador program. Hong Kong, I think they already have about 100 on the different field, from some of the, focus on the different industry that Macau is planning to develop for the next 5 years. And I know that Macau has, I think, the 4 centers that's authorized by the central government for technology development, and also become well-known in the Great Bay Area. And also Macau is a key city in the Great Bay Area for the Technology Innovation Center. So based on those 4 centers, I think we can have so many association meetings moved to Macau for development when we move, because now everyone is talking about how we can leave a legacy of association meeting. That means after the meeting, even before the meeting, held, and during the planning, we need to think about what the meeting can bring to the industry development of the destination of Macau, especially. And those 4 cities, if I'm correct, is a state key, laboratory of lunar and planetary sciences. This is one of the center in Macau. So, China, we have the, China Space Station set up and open to all the countries, and welcome all the participants to use in the near future. So this aroused a big interest of all the Chinese people, especially young people, curious and study and research on the space. So I think we need Macau based on this center, build up more resources, or even a mini museum, a mini space station, or something that can really provide the whole resources that can, and also need a professor, or what we call the ambassador, meeting ambassador from that center to design the associations together, association meetings in a certain element landed in Macau. So, of course, the other three research centers located in Macau is also very strong. One is traditional Chinese medicine quality research that can really bring a lot of meetings to Macau. Another is state key laboratory of analog and mixed signal, very large scale and integrated circuits, and state key laboratory of smart city Internet of Things. Those are very strong trend, has a strong trend in mainland China and also in the other parts of the world. And as Macau is entry, the door, the threshold of China, the first door of China, I think no matter for Chinese association meetings of this for respect landed in Macau, even easier for Macau to attract more international meetings landed in Macau. So for international meetings, they should have their bidding center, have their bidding task force set up. So this is what my suggestion. Meeting ambassadors, bidding center, bidding PCO task force for Macau.
Excellent. Thank you. That's some very good advice. Thank you, Alicia. I just want to thank Belinda, Bobby, Alicia for your great advice, your great insights into the association sector. Hopefully there's a lot of takeaways from this session for the Macau industry. If you've got any specific questions you'd like to ask, we're now about to start our Q&A session. So please either put your questions on the chat session or alert us by putting your hand up and let us know you want to make a question. So please, we're back to Q&A. So thanks very much, guys. And we'll see you again soon. Thanks.